How can I tell her now? Good ain't good enough.
How about that?
The hardest thing I've ever had.
Earl Thomas Conley was 77.
And loving you.
Yeah. Is that your kind of music, Rob, in Orlando? Like that? Hey, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Dan. I heard you from somebody close to the station listening said that you were trying to shout me out yesterday about Bernard Sanders.
Well, I know you are a big Bernie Sanders supporter, Rob, in Orlando, Florida, and we were talking about Bernie Sanders becoming a millionaire and admitting he's a millionaire, and whether or not his base will be bothered by that. That's all.
Oh, yeah, well, quick thing on that, and then I do want to get to the gun laws that you were talking about. As far as the Bernie Sanders thing, most of the people, actually everybody in the U.S. Senate and everybody in the U.S. House, besides very few people like AOC, are multi-millionaires.
That's right.
So Bernie is Bernie is a millionaire, but he's one of the poorest members of the U.S. Senate. You know, some of our greatest leaders in America, FDR, Abraham Lincoln, these people are rich people, and they still wanted to help America become great. So you can still be rich and help Americans.
Yeah, I get it. My question, I have no problem with someone being rich, but, you know, he has had rhetoric. I think you would agree he has had rhetoric against the wealthy in the past, perhaps for specific actions. So my question is, among Bernie's supporters, will it harm him?
No, not at all, because he always comes out in his speeches, he says, you know, I'm one of, and he actually, when he debated Hillary, he came out and said, you know, about his tax returns, said, you know, you can look at my tax returns, I'm one of the poorer members of the U.S. Senate. He was ranked at the bottom as far as, you know, the wealth that he does.
But why does that even matter? Why does that even matter? His wealth level, does it matter to you?
Well, it shouldn't, and even though I dislike President Trump, his wealth doesn't matter to me. But as far as the tax returns, I know you brought that up, I think, yesterday. With the tax returns, people want to see the tax returns as far as President Trump goes, because they want to see about his businesses. You know, and we're okay that he has started his businesses, and that's great for America. But it's what are his investments? Does he have investments overseas that's going to hurt him as a president? Which his involvement with the Saudi Arabians, that could be looked in as far as pay to play. As far as with Hillary Clinton, look at the pay to play that she had with the Clinton Foundation with Uranium One in Russia. So it can go both ways, Dan. Even though this is a lot of conservatives that listen to the program, as far as me as a progressive, I don't like Hillary Clinton because she was pay to play, but I think we should look into Donald Trump's tax returns to see if there was the same pay to play with different countries.
I just disagree. I don't think it's anybody's business. I don't want to see Bernie Sanders' tax return, anything else. I think it's a dumb tradition that candidates started to do. It's basically meaningless.
Right.
But anyway, you wanted to say something about these Delaware gun bills.
Yeah, I want to touch on that. I've been listening to your show pretty much the whole majority of the morning this morning. The problem is with the gun bill, and what a lot of your listeners aren't talking about is when you go to register, when you go to buy a gun, you have to take safety classes. Some states are more stricter than others. I know in Florida, we had that with... in 2016 with the Pulse nightclub shooting.
Yeah, but you don't have to. Hold on. You don't have to do that. If you're going to be a hunter, there's a hunter safety class that you must do. In Delaware, you don't have to take a government-mandated class. You don't. But so this bill would require, but the bill being proposed would require it and get you would have to get pre-permission from the government and give your fingerprint, all this other stuff before you even purchased.
Well, that even brings on it even more of what I was talking about, is that anybody could go in, me, you, anybody in the kitchen sink could go in and say, hey, I want to be a hunter, I want a gun, and then they go up and blow up the place, and who knows what's in people's head. We need training as as far as not just gun training, but we need psychologists to look into these guys, and you should be able to. You should have to take a class like that to make sure that these people are equipped to use a gun.
I see. So wait a second. Hold on. Hold on for a second.
What happened in New Zealand?
I get it. Crazy people exist. You're telling me that before someone should own a gun, that psychologists need to examine?
They should have a psychological evaluation.
Oh boy.
This is a dangerous weapon. These are people. You're talking about people that want these weapons. These are military-style weapons. We know, and you walk around the streets as much as I do. I know that there's a lot of people I look at and saying they should not be using military-style weapons without some serious training and serious psychological
Does it make a
evaluation.
difference if the gun?
Crazy people.
Does it make a difference if the gun looks like a military gun or not, but does the same thing?
As far as what the gun looks like and what the gun, it doesn't matter what the gun looks like. It matters how, like you said, these are military-style weapons.
Well, a lot of these are a lot of the proposed ban are cosmetic only.
You're talking about the assault weapons ban in the bill.
Well, an assault weapon. These are not assault weapons. That's why we say so-called assault weapons. They're regular semi-automatic rifles that they label as assault weapons because they don't like the way they look, but they function the same as many other semi-auto rifles.
Well, anybody can buy stuff illegally off the street. I mean, President Trump.
Yeah, but you're changing the issue now. I've just pointed out to you that they're not assault weapons. They just call them that, and then you change the issue.
I'm not changing the issue, dude. I'm telling you the truth that people, and you walked around the streets, and I haven't been to Delaware lately, but I will be there. But you walked around the streets, you see people carrying, I've seen people in Florida carrying guns, and they look a little sketchy as far as, we don't know what's in their mind.
We have in Delaware, open carry. You're allowed to carry a gun openly. No problem.
Yeah, and what about somebody that gets road rage, Dan? We just saw a story in Arizona where some guy had road rage. He pulled up to the guy's house.
Coulda, woulda, shoulda. If ifs and buts were candies and nuts, we'd all have a happy Christmas. But listen, you're talking about stuff that's not happening.
It is happening, Dan. We look at stuff that's happening all over the country and all over the world. Right-wing people are getting guns. We've seen it in New Zealand. We've seen it in Columbine. We've seen it all over the place in this country.
So, Rob,
that
when you have the psychologists do the analysis, should they try and determine if the person is a quote right-wing person?
No, I'm just telling you.
I'm asking you.
That these people are listening to right-wing ideology. We've seen the guy in New Zealand that was a Trump fan. And we've seen the tons of people that are listening to this white supremacist ideology, and they're picking up guns, and they're acting. Nothing's changed in the country.
So why do you want to tell me what to do with my gun because of that nut?
I'm not telling you what to do. I'm saying that you should be able to take safety classes and be analyzed by a psychologist to make sure that you should be able to use the gun. That's all it is. You know, when the founders established the Second Amendment, it was to fight for start a militia against England. We have a military now. All this BS about the government's coming to get your guns. The government, we're going to watch the government. Give me a break.
I'm sorry that the Supreme Court has disagreed with you.
People are making money off these people that are worried about these silly, stupid things. Just like they said Obama was coming to get, was making death panels. Obama was coming to get your guns. Give me a break. Just right-wing talking points that are not making us safer. They're making us more unsafe. And creating white supremacists and terrorists all over this country.
If you could call... Well, creating terrorists, buying guns. Okay, so let me ask you this. A couple of people want to...
You don't think right-wing ideology that they're saying Obama's coming to get the guns, Obama's making death panels, it's making people upset and creating them to hate Obama? I've seen
Well,
Yeah,
I don't know.
YouTube,
I don't
them
care about
stupid
Obama's
Obama
out of
stuff.
office. I don't
It's
really care.
insanity.
I don't really care he's out of
Yeah,
office.
almost the guy in
But-
Florida that was sending bombs to
Rob,
Hillary Clinton and Obama.
I'll tell you
think
one-
that he wasn't a terrorist?
There's one
You
person.
think that he wasn't a terrorist?
There's one person displaying a sort of temperament that should be screened out from owning a gun, and his name is Rob. I mean, calm down, dude. Here is Frank in Milford.
I'm telling you, I'm
Frank.
just telling you the truth. You know I love you.
Yeah,
but
Frank.
You got people around
Frank,
that shouldn't have guns.
Rob.
And I just described two people that
Frank.
shouldn't have
Yeah,
guns.
well, they should be locked up and put away. But I don't want to take guns from anybody else because of those nuts. That's how we differ. Frank, what is your comment to Rob?
My comment to Rob is he obviously hasn't read the Constitution. It says we have the right
I
to
have
bear
Frank read the
arms.
Constitution.
Stop. Hey, Rob, I let you speak and ramble on. Give me the respect and let me say what I'm going to say. Okay?
He didn't let me
It
rap
says we
on,
have
but
the
okay.
right to bear and keep arms. That right shall not be infringed. It is not given to us by the government. It is given to us by our Creator. Okay? And the right to keep and bear arms, if you read the Federalist Papers, is because you have the right to keep them from a tyrannical government. What you're trying to do is once you dismantle the Second Amendment right, they're going to take the rest of them away from you. How much more do you want the government to control your life? They work for us, Rob. That's the point.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
We don't work for them.
All right.
The problem is with guys like you, as you guys warriors keep saying taking guns. No one's taking your guns away. We
Rob,
want you to take safety classes.
Yeah, but Rob-
to make sure the right people have guns.
Rob,
Oh, my God.
the very proposals that we're talking about do in fact ban certain guns and magazines. They do. Okay, Rob?
Say that again. I'm sorry.
I said the very bills that we are talking about do indeed criminalize guns.
Yeah, assault weapons. They're assault weapons. They're not just
There's
a
no
regular
such thing
gun.
as an assault weapon, Rob. There's no such thing. Assault is a verb. I leave my guns at home all day. They don't touch anybody. They're not assaulting anybody. I have a right to protect my home,
but there
to
are
protect
people.
my family, and to protect myself from a tyrannical government. Okay?
All right. Listen, on that note, let me bring in Brandon. I'm sorry, I had to go, Frank. Brandon, you're on with Rob.
ahead.
A couple things. First thing is all these laws that you guys that they want to do in Delaware, and I'm a Delaware resident. They have done all the same stuff in Maryland. And just out of curiosity, did the murder rate go down in Baltimore? No. Okay, that's one. Two is you keep on, people refer to them as assault weapons.
Wait a minute. The murder rate is
stop. No, because you don't know anything about guns. Here's what I'm going to tell you. You don't know anything about guns. Do you know what a Ruger 1022 is? Do you know what a Ruger 1022 is?
I'm trying, but hold on.
I'm
Before
asking
we
you a
get to
question.
that,
Do
I
you
want
know
to.
what a Ruger 1022 is?
You're not going to let me
It's a 22
talk.
rifle.
He's asking you a
That's
question.
That's 100 years old. Okay, that weapon, you can take that, buy it. It looks like any other rifle. You go buy an Archangel kit for it. It costs maybe, I think, like $100, and it dresses up, makes it look like an AR. Then that makes that in turn become an assault weapon by the definition of the laws. That's two. Three is when they tell you, oh, we're not going to go after this or we're not going to go after that. In Maryland, now that they have gotten it to where you have to take a handgun safety course to buy a handgun and have a waiting period, now in the state of Maryland, they're going through their General Assembly to make you have a 10-day waiting period and make you go through another course just to buy a long gun, which is a shotgun or a rifle. And I'm not talking like an AR-15 rifle. I'm talking a bolt action like your Remington 700 or anything like that, or a shotgun, whether it be a single shotgun or a semi-automatic or a pump, doesn't matter. And third is you keep on saying military issued. For the longest time, the military-issued shotgun was a Mossberg 590, which also is I think it's an 8-shot shotgun, pump action. That was literally a military-issued shotgun. Beretta is the ones that make the firearms now for for the military that are the military-issue sidearms. It's no different than any other pistol that you would buy. Back in the day in World War II, 1911 Colt 1911 was a military-issue gun. It is a 8-shot semi-automatic 45. It's not an assault weapon. It's just a pistol. So when you put and say, "Oh, this is an assault" or "that is an assault," it's not. And in the gun and in the bills that they say you have a carbine barrel. It's a carbine, which means it's got a thin. They call them like pencil barrels, basically. It's a light-barreled AR-15. You can go and buy a heavy-barreled AR-15 or an AR-10, which is chambered in a .308. They have bull barrels on them, and you can still buy them, and they're the same gun. It's the same exact gun with a different barrel on it. Does that make any sense? No. There's no such thing as an assault weapon. And also, just out of curiosity, because you're saying about saving people's lives, should people have to take a psychiatric course to also buy cars? Because last time I checked, people run people over all the time. Happened in New York, happened in Charlottesville, happens all over. Happened in, the guy ran 20 people over in New York 2 years ago. So is that what we're going to do now? We're just, every time somebody can die.
President Trump. Yeah. Charlottesville was because President Trump pumped up the rhetoric over there. But let me answer your question, please. And I respectfully, think that you do know a lot about guns. Let's talk about the murder rate in Baltimore. The murder rate in Baltimore is not just because of guns. It's because of the poverty levels, because there's no jobs for these people to get. And there's been so much poverty in that city that they can't get out of it. And they turn to drugs and guns.
Yeah.
So then what does banning my gun have to do with it?
That's a different issue.
Yeah, I wish...
What does banning somebody, a legal gun owner, a legal person that can legally own a firearm, that's a productive citizen, what does that have to do with limiting my rights because of poverty and another? It doesn't change. See, that's
and by the way, I want to point out, may I interject? Let me interject also that these gun laws that make it hard for people to have weapons hurt minorities and the poor in Baltimore who cannot get guns or have guns to defend themselves. It hurts minorities by having these gun laws. Rob, thank you. Listen, I got to go. Danny, let's go to, real quick, Danny, you had one more comment for Rob. Rob, then we'll let you go. Go ahead, Danny.
Thanks.
Are you talking to me or talking to the guy from Florida?
I'm on with you, Danny. You're on with Rob in Orlando.
Okay,
go ahead.
This fellow Rob, I hear the same argument from people all the time, the same exact argument. And I hear the guy from Maryland, he keeps arguing the wrong facts with these people. You can't get these facts through to them. They don't care. The problem is they don't seem to understand what our country was built on. And if you look at it all through history, through your Revolutionary War, your Civil War, you had kids fighting these wars for what people believed in. Children.
It's a different world now. It's a different world now.
Have we become so ignorant and stupid as to where even our children are not able to understand what our beliefs are and fight for them? Now we can't even trust adults. Our Constitution was put in place for a reason. Things are by design in our Constitution. If you start chiseling away at our rights, which has already been going on for the past 100 years, and you say they're not trying to take your guns for you, they are chiseling away at it piece by piece by piece, very slowly, because infringement means nothing. No infringement, which means any gun law is unconstitutional. But people are allowing it to happen, trying to be compliant, and meanwhile losing their... But back in the day, children fought for these rights. Now we can't even have adults fighting for these same rights.
Great call, Danny. Rob, I thank you for listening to some of my other callers. Thanks for making your point. This is the Dan Gaffney program.
And I respect, Dan, I do respect everybody, and I'll leave you with that and their opinions. I'm not trying to start any fights. I just, I think this is a great...
you ought to actually listen to... You ought to investigate. You ought to investigate some of their claims. Do a little research. That's all.
I definitely will.
All right.
Okay,
Bye,
you,
Rob. Bye.